Services and Facilities Committee meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Hope everybody had a nice Easter. And the first thing we have is, do we have any citizens' comments?
No.
No. Approval of the meeting minutes from March 3rd.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Marine attendance comments, it doesn't appear that we have anyone here. No presentations. So moving on to old business, beach renourishment related topics. The first thing is the escrow agreement for Wild Dunes Community Association.
Yeah. I'll just give a quick update on this. This has gone, went from the city to the community association, a lot of red lines added by the community association, came back to the city. It went through the staff. A lot of it was more policy than legal. So staff went through it, added red lines. Then the attorneys went through it, added red lines. It's now just gone back to the community association. So it's very much, kind of getting very actively marked up by both parties. I would say generally, there has been a consensus here recently since between the last time you all saw this agreement and now, we have a firm bid. So a lot of the language in that agreement was anticipating getting the bid, so it kind of established, when maximum amounts, how the breakdown of payments would be divvied up between the two parties. I think everybody has agreed that we would now take the actual amount of the bid and apply, just kind of divvy that bill up and then have a bottom line dollar that we would be expected to enter into an agreement. So I will say, to get that done, a key part of that is what is the size of the project that's going to happen. I think we're kind of assuming that the size of the project is going to be the maximum permitted by the BCM permits, and not less than that, not more than that. So that's kind of the draft that we're working towards now. But that decision hasn't been made by either council or the community association. So we're assuming that will be the amount. We're gonna continue to work on the agreement with that assumption. But if council and/or the community association was to say it's some other amount, we would just need to change the dollar amounts and update them. So we think it'll be an easier process, but.
Would that have any impact on permitting or anything like that?
The only way it would have an impact is if the two groups decided to go beyond what's already permitted. And I know that there's definitely
And
an
that's what,
interest in that.
2.5, 2.6?
2.5 is
Yeah.
what's been permitted. If both groups say, hey, we've got a good bid, let's do more than that, then the language in here would need to change to address that, and obviously the dollar amounts, but.
But a fairly short window to get a permit amended, I would hope, if you did.
I
do
think
that.
Stephen has said roughly 30 days would be his guess.
Can I go through something?
Sure.
And I don't know who would be best to capture these.
Probably the video, but
Probably the video. Okay.
Sean, I'll give it a try. We can compare notes.
A lot of these are just house cleaning, but there are
If
some.
you tell us the page
I will.
on the
I'm going to
bottom.
go right through
Yeah.
just on the preamble,
What page?
I'm on page 18
Of
in
the
the
packet?
packet.
Okay.
Second whereas. I think you got you got a whereas as, that's just a typo, I think. That's just a small one. On 1C, that's on page 18 as well. It says, no funds from the association will be used for the removal of the bags. There was a little bit of an update on the bag removal. This is more of a question. Is the city removing the bags that were placed by association members such as at the Ocean Club And I guess, does that apply to the south? I mean, is the city assuming the responsibility to remove all bags?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have determined that, and we've confirmed this with the contractor, if they are scooping out 10
It's
bags,
just easier.
it's just
Yep.
easier to scoop out 30 bags.
That
There's
way-
no
That way we
additional.
know that they're all
Yeah.
taken care of.
And it actually all happened under our permit, so yes.
Okay, that's an easy one. 2A on page 19. This is basically the north end. We've got the 22 million in there. I think that's actually going to be closer to 15. So you said you're going to update that?
Yes.
And it says on the third line there, fluctuate based on receiving bids on sand placement. I think we received the bids,
Yep.
so that needs to get updated. 2C on page 19, there was a change there by the association. It says, "The association, while not obligated to do so, reserves the right to fund costs in excess of the city's estimate to the extent the city is not willing to pay for such excess costs so long as the extent of that work conforms to the existing permit." Can you explain what the intent was on that?
So if the association chooses independently, if we end this negotiation, the city says our cap is,
1.6 instead of 2.5?
yeah, 1,000,006, there's nothing that would stop them from just doing more on their own if they chose to.
As long
So
as
if
it's
the-
within the permit.
As long as they're compliant with our permit, we would allow them to place more if they chose to on their own dollar. Is the intent of that one.
Okay, so this is just a question to have with the parties. So run the scenario, let's say we do 1.2 instead of 1.7 up at the north end, and then the dredger's scheduled to move after the 1.2 down to the south to do the, 400 or 800. How would they be using our contract, or they're on their own after that? They're not using our contract, or are they using our contract?
They would be, I think they would be using our contract.
Okay, so
I
that
don't-
kind of gets to the sandbag situation.
Hadn't thought through that,
Yeah,
but
so
if,
that kind of gets that sandbag situation we had at Beechwood East where the people, the independents were using our contractor to place bags, which
Right.
impacted our schedule to go up to the north to place those bags. So much smaller scale, but same issue. What happens then is that an independent party, third party, is then controlling
Yeah,
our
yeah,
project.
yeah.
So just, can you walk that through
so,
with them?
so long as the extent of that work conforms to the existing permit, and then an added blurb that says, and does not negatively impact the
Well, and
schedule.
we should be able to decide if there's going to be an
Pursuant to
impact
our
the whole.
scheduling.
Yeah, to the whole
Yeah.
project, because if we don't, say they get done in, July or whatever, and then they want to put more sand up there and goes into August, and then the south side's then smack in the middle of the hurricane season. I
Yeah.
just think we ought to have control over
Yeah.
that. And it's, I understand exactly what they're doing,
Yeah.
but we need to walk through a scenario or
Okay.
two on that if we can with them. 3B, and that's on page
20.
20.
Had a lot of bleeding on it.
Yeah, but I simplified it. I thought that was actually pretty good. I looked at this and I said, at the very last sentence, the city will not reduce the north end project size from 1.2 million cubic yards of sand without the association's express written consent. I don't know how we guarantee this if there's things beyond our control. And I kind of look at this is a cost sharing agreement. It's not a guaranteed delivery agreement. So we may want to, I would, personally, I'd take this out, but I just think we ought to note that.
Okay.
This is a cost-sharing agreement on what the project is, not
Yep.
having say over what we end up doing. Things may be beyond our control.
Right, that sentence, that sentence just doesn't really fit in that paragraph, I think, is more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, it didn't really relate, and it's on 3C and D, that is on page 20 as well. I think we've got a contradiction of terms because, excuse me, we say if, and this is in C on the fourth line, it starts out, if Reach 3 project proceeds, if Reach 3 project proceeds, 68% of mobilization and soft costs will be allocated to the north end project based on its share of the total volume of sand placed on across all reaches. So both in C and D, we've got a fixed percentage, but the volume of sand is variable, which is going to be determining how we allocate costs. So I don't think we can have both. Then we have, in D, it says 32%, but then it's allocated based on the sand volume. So
Yeah.
you got to, these are completely
Yeah.
contradictions within the same sentence.
So it should say
I think it's just allocation on the sand is what we
Yeah.
agreed upon, yeah.
allocations.
4B, I think we struck that.
That's all gone.
Oh, it said, I think, actually it got put back in. So we're talking about the notice.
All right, which,
I'm sorry, on
what
page
letter are you on?
Page 21 on 4B.
4B.
And I don't have
UB, yeah.
I don't have an answer for this, but it talks about an amendment and a notice. I don't know which is which. And is the notice the amendment, or the amendment the notice? And if it's a written amendment, that suggests there's going to be negotiation, redlining, and signing cycle times versus a notice, we just give notice. So I just maybe have the attorneys look at that and figure out what they want to do with that one.
That's on 4B?
Well, it's
4B.
the new,
What
it's
is
a
now
new
B?
B.
Yeah, it says.
Yeah, I
written-
see- I see
it
the
says
new
written-
B.
Shall provide a written amendment to this agreement, and the association agrees to replenish. Amendment's going to require agreement. And then it talks later about the written notice. They're going to have to replenish after the notice, but is the intent for them to replenish after the amendment's done? Just make sure everybody's on the same page on when the actual replenishment happens. Do they have to sign the amendment before? You got an amendment and a notice in here, and I don't know which is a trigger for what.
Where is the reference to an amendment?
It
It's
says,
also
"City shall
4B?
provide a written amendment to this agreement, and the association agrees to replenish the ESCO account with enough money to restore the deficit within 30 days from this date of the city's written notice," the replenishment notice. So if we give them notice, do they have to replenish, or is the replenishment amount going to be determined by the amendment, because we don't know what that amendment is?
But that's been struck, right?
Yeah, I don't-
And you-
Oh, I thought
in
they
my
put,
red
I think
line-
in the, I thought in the final
4B.
it's back in.
I don't see that
I don't see
amendment
that
language.
either.
Well, then never mind that one.
Yeah, what we're.
It is showing up that final.
That's why I was asking. I just
Oh,
didn't
good.
see the
Okay.
word
You say it
amendment.
got
Never
put
mind
back
that
in?
one.
It looks
That
like
one-
it's
that
in the
one's already
final
taken care of.
version.
They're way ahead of me.
Yeah.
We can just pull it back out.
On,
Wait, so wait,
go ahead.
So that might be one, Sean is saying it is back in the final version.
That's what I thought
So I
it
wonder
is.
if that's one that got put out and then put back in, and it's getting so many red lines. So we'll clarify that. I think we were looking at it as though it's out.
Have we got two different documents out there? I mean,
I think
Well,
the red
in
line-
your packet is a clean version, because this gets so messy,
Yeah.
and a red line.
Okay.
But I wonder if it goes out and in.
And I went back to the clean version
Okay.
before I did my
Okay.
notes, because a lot of the stuff I
Okay.
had had already been taken care of. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll verify that that is out, which is, but if it's not, if it's not out,
the red line version makes more sense.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If
Let
not.
me take it out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Number 5, again, on page 21, there's reference to a cap. And I don't think we have a cap anymore. And just another house cleaning item, the word owner never got taken out. And it says, and there's still formal acceptance language, that the association is going to have to do the formal acceptance. That's not on us, it's on them, and I thought we said that didn't fit.
Take out cap,
So there were two items there.
take out owner.
And address the formal acceptance language.
No formal. Okay, got it.
Page 22, item number 6. And this is more just a legal choice. I've never been a fan of best efforts. I've always used like or commercially reasonable efforts. Best efforts are troublesome in any kind of dispute.
The standard's reasonable, so. I
What
don't
was
know why they
the,
wouldn't use that language.
no best effort, what was the preferable
It
language?
just says use best effort. Commercially reasonable efforts is an acceptable one, or put some guardrails around what best efforts are. I kind of prefer the first one, just go to commercially reasonable. We'll do everything we can, but
Okay.
best effort can be, troublesome. Number 7, that's in, let me see, 7B.
B struck, is that part of A?
You know what, I think I'm okay on that. I don't know, I think I'm. Oh, I was saying what happened to B. I think that did get struck, didn't it?
No,
A got struck, that left you with just one paragraph, so I guess it does not have a letter now.
It's all A.
it should be A.
Okay, so I think we're okay there.
What should be A? Was B.
Number 8,
That's all.
it's just,
Is
somebody missed a period, no big deal. Forget that one. Oh, I know, there's another section in there, I think, that refers to control and acceptance. That
In
it
8?
contradicts, 8 sort of contradicts section 5 on control and acceptance. Maybe just have the attorneys look at that one. There seemed to be some ambiguity as to who's doing what.
Contradicts which section?
5. And I think if you take out the acceptance in 5, will be, the formal
Okay.
acceptance language in 5 would be okay. And then, just update, you're gonna update the exhibits. I noticed in
Yeah.
the exhibit that was attached, for some reason on the cost, we're using $8 a cubic yard instead of the $7.52 in the bid, and I don't know, that flows through all the numbers.
Yeah, there was a weird thing when Deborah was working it, that when you look at the bids, the math doesn't actually work out to $7.50. Other than the additional, so the initial load of sand for some reason is $8.
We can fix that model, I guess, but it should be $7.50, it's all $7.52 in the bid, right? It's not 8, it's
No,
not
I think
8.
he's saying when you do
No,
the
when you
math
do
of
the
the
math,
bid. Like
the
it
base
says
bid.
750, but the math is actually 8. Is that what
When
you're
the
saying?
$7.50 is additional sand beyond the base bid. So it's like the first amount costs you, there's mobilization, the first amount costs you $8, and then additional sand costs $7.50, I think is what, but there is definitely a
Well, I
math.
remember in the bid, the 752 was next to each one of the, so if he calculated incorrectly, I'm just saying that the dollar
We
amount in
need
the
to address
bid,
that.
the
Yeah.
bid said 752. I'm pretty sure, for each.
Probably need to look into that.
I will double check that. We'll be sure.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that the bid may have said 752, but the calculation came out 8 for
Yes.
the, 8 for the first 1.6?
Yes, I believe that is true.
Okay, we can go back and check that. Okay, that was it.
All right, so we'll provide these comments so now it's back with the community association, but we'll provide these comments to them so they incorporate them into
Okay.
their review.
All right, thank you.
We are getting to a point where, and,
It's looking like it's moving ahead.
yeah, but we need to be done. We have to kind of, everybody have it in a good form that, for the 28th.
Eventually it becomes a Seurat painting.
Yeah.
It'll never be
That's
finished.
exactly right.
Exactly.
Too many dots.
Yep. But I think we're getting close.
How about the easements?
Sean, are you able to give a quick update on how we're sitting with the easements?
Yeah, right now, we have 18 of 140 easements available. We have no addendums yet. We had some addendums. We've updated the addendum to version 2 now, so we don't have any addendums in yet. Hopefully, we'll start getting some in this week after the 2 April community meeting on easements.
Yeah, we had a good meeting. Unfortunately, I mean, from my perspective, it wasn't as well attended as I had hoped on the easements. Had some good questions, though. Those questions led to, as Sean's mentioned, now 2 different kind of, I would say, clarifying amendments or addendums to the easements. Haven't sensed a tremendous amount of resistance to it. I I would classify the request for changes to the easements to be a little bit in the housekeeping category. None of it was stuff that we had much legal issue with. We have set the deadline out there of April 22nd. Again, I mean, and I guess there's a certain anxiety that we're at the 6th today, and we're hoping to have 100 come in, or 100 and whatever it is, 120 in the next 2 weeks. But I think we're set up potentially for that to happen.
Do we have any people that have,
I don't think.
either we can't find?
Do we
or
have a hard
not?
no? I think there are some that Sean is indicating we have not had any real feedback that they are receiving or not receiving it. Any hard no's that we're aware of?
No, we had one initially. I think the amended easement language is going to satisfy him. It was in the addendum. The first paragraph was entirely stricken out. It talked about removing sand fencing, turf, et cetera. And then there was also some hold harmless language that this individual had a problem with. That's been taken out as well. So that one hard no should be resolved. The real problem is just getting in contact with people. And that's been the bigger challenge.
So do
So
we have people that, because I know this was an issue before, I mean, and sometimes I think, neighbors might, like, are we at the point where we need to go knock on doors and ask neighbors and,
Yeah, I think that I think that we don't know. A lot of people have gotten back to us and said, I have a question, received, and Sean has asked, I think, twice, just let us know that you're hearing us. And I think we still have a handful that aren't responsive in any way. And I do know that we've kind of asked informally for people who are engaged and, involved down there to be champions of reaching out to their neighbors. But there are some that are just completely remote. They're in Chicago.
Right.
We're sending it to an email. We're mailing things, and we're just not getting.
You don't even know if they've seen it yet,
Yeah.
really.
So I think that, if anything, that's the kind of concern that we would have now. It's just of.
Do you have another meeting planned too, right, or not?
No,
Just that one?
just that one.
Was timing of the time of the day, was that an issue in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, we didn't hear, there was one person that just said, hey, can we attend? Can we ask questions via YouTube? It was streamed. I do think the stream, and we kind of have said this, it should be seen as a reference. If you have questions, go back to that meeting, because Mac lays out the kind of legal questions of it. Stephen laid out the project itself, all the challenges and expectations of how the project will proceed. So I do think the video's been fairly well watched. It's just a little concern of this hard deadline at the 22nd for council to be able to consider, what the level of participation's been with the easements. But we're happy to have no hard no's at this
Is there
point.
sort of an internal date that says, hey, by, the 15th or the 20th, if we haven't received any acknowledgement back from XYZ person, do we do like a next step outreach just to make sure that they've got it?
Yeah, we're doing that now. I mean, we're kind of pulling out all, if we can get phone numbers. That's another challenge, is these phone numbers aren't public record. So we're at that point between now and the 22nd of really kind of beating the pavement for those that we have not heard anything from yet.
Okay. I've got one question that's kind of not on here, but the cleanup, is that, the mud is kind of drifting up towards now 5th and 6th. Is that, and I asked a question, are they going to be addressing like where they dumped into the water? Is there any timing or update on when
Yeah.
that's coming, or do we not know what the
So-
contract
so-
is? Or
So we anticipated they would start this past week. The tides were not favorable for that to happen. It was high tide during working hours. So I think our expectation is this week that they will begin. I think all of the work that would happen would be landward of the low tide line. So there is no equipment to go out into the water.
is anybody even taking a look and assessing how much got dumped right there? Because that stuff doesn't go away. I don't know if anybody's even looking at it. There was a lot, for days, there was the nighttime bucket load going out, but right, I mean, there's probably as much out there than there is on the beach, but I'm just asking. I don't know, is anybody even looking at that?
Yeah, so,
Go ahead, yeah.
yeah, so I was in contact with Sealy Construction, who was going to be doing the cleanup for Army Corps. They've been in constant communication. They've identified the, let's call them piles, or the big deposits. They are going to work all those areas, and like Douglas said, from the low tide up. I think they're scheduled for 6 days
Yep.
down
6 days
there,
of work.
and they're gonna need all of that to do it, so. But they've been in communication, and today is supposed to be their start day.
Oh, good. But you have not heard, and I haven't heard of an effort to go out into the water seaward of the low tide line.
No, just that those deposits you see.
Can we do kind of a formal ask and receipt of the answer? Because there, I mean, there's a lot of presumed volume that we can't see that could have an impact and just be sitting out there just below the tide line. And you know what? Hopefully it's gone. Maybe the best outcome would be it's not there. But I can't imagine it would take somebody more than a couple hours to just take a look.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out, while this whole process is going on, from morning, take pictures in the morning, midday, and then when they leave also, so, for the full 6
Okay.
days.
Well, they weren't dumping far out. They were just right, I mean, it was probably 20, 30 yards out.
So-
below the lines.
Was it below low tide?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the, that's
was
the
a-
challenge, is I think even at dead low, it would still be out into the surf. So see, I'll ask Jacob, if you could ask Murray, if
Sure.
there's a way to get to this, to material that's
Okay,
in the surf at low
Or
tide.
even just evaluate, somebody take a look and see if there, what's out there, if there's a, I mean, it was right in the, it was that second to third block,
Okay.
first to third block, and it was going on for several nights where they were just loading up the bucket loader going out past the low tide line and
okay,
dumping some of that stuff.
okay,
I can send you the video.
sure, yeah, good.
Robert, you stay here. You're next.
Waterway, Waterway Boulevard project? Is that?
Yeah, so Waterway Boulevard, they are complete at 22nd Avenue. They've installed the pipes there. We had a little bit of a conflict with Isle Palms Water and Sewer, 12-inch water main. In the end, it really didn't affect what we were doing there, but that took a little bit of time. They've now moved down to 23rd, where they've got everything staged, and we're just waiting on permits there to cut the road and cross the road. So that's where they were left off on Friday. And what we've been doing, the city's been doing, is at each project, we've been moving with our cleaning contractor, because what we find when we get to those pipes at Waterway, they're pretty impacted with sand and debris from years and years, and cleaning them while they're doing the project, all the way to the outfall, and even cleaning those outfall pipes. So that's been working out really well. But that's where they're at now, is at 23rd.
Everything pretty much on schedule at this point?
Yes.
I think it feel like, so there was and I'll just call it a hiccup, we got a set of encroachment permits from the DOT submitted all the plans and got an encroachment permit. We learned really at our pre-construction meeting that they wanted a second permit for the water and sewer work. Contractor said, designer said, we haven't done this before. The water and sewer work is shown on the plans. Our assumption was that was covered. And apparently there's a new permitting process that it now needs 2 DOT permits. So that has led to a little bit of a delay, maybe a week or two, in getting started where they, so I would assume that translates to a week or two delay in the total project, but I don't know that. We haven't gotten a revised project schedule from the contractor. But I would assume that it slipped a week or two as a result of that. But we'll confirm that, and we have requested an updated schedule and should have that.
Then the contractor's also moving, so if he's at 23rd and has a delay, then he can move down to 25th and start doing some stuff there too. So there's been a little bit of shuffling around, but to try to keep going instead of being stopped.
Get other work done while you're waiting, yeah.
So I think we're moving along well
Awesome.
there.
All right, the marina parking lot lease amendments. I was under the understanding that the plan was to have Islander 71 be responsible for the work, and
Yeah.
that's not what the contract says.
Yes, I will say, and this same thing is kind of rippling through our budget, this agreement, and it, we have everything currently, the budget and this agreement are set up for our traditional path of, it would be revenue in through their rent and revenue out to pay for the project. Council has not advised otherwise yet. We've kind of talked about it, the budget meetings. There hasn't been, it's represented in the budget to do it the way this agreement shows it. So we really need council to direct on how we want to fund it.
Well, let's get that done before, I mean, that,
Yeah, that's kind of an impasse.
I mean, we pay our lawyers for the time that it takes them to draft these things, right?
Yeah,
So like, if that's not, I mean, that was not the discussion that was had, and I don't, that's not what we've talked about with the restaurant. So I don't see what the point is of drafting an agreement that's not what anyone has agreed to. I mean, if we don't have an agreement yet, then let's just not draft the agreement. I mean, this seems like a premature.
well, we talked it through with Brian Kitts, who's the attorney that worked on this at Mac's office. He did indicate it's a edit of a few words, if we wanted to do it that way. Same thing with the budget. It's a easy enough change if council wants to change it. But to keep momentum, because we are, to get this done, we're up against, it has to be done, we think, in January or February, which will, we need to get it done. So we're trying to keep it moving in an effort to meet that schedule, but we do realize and know that if it's not going to be done the way that's contemplated in the agreement and the budget, we need to be given that direction.
Well, in that case,
Yep.
can we get that on the next meeting's agenda and get a decision?
So it's
You're
a,
talking about council,
Yeah,
yeah,
or you in Ways and Means?
somewhere where we can vote on it.
yeah. So maybe ways and, I mean, it's been bundled with the budget. Maybe it gets pulled out independently because it's in the time, it's time critical if we're going to get the work done.
I
next
think we
year.
should have some full discussion on it, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, so ways and means.
let's get that, yeah, as soon as we can. And because that leads us to the next thing, which is Klein's design, which I kind of see, even if we change this contract or the lease amendment to reflect that the Islander is going to take charge of the project, I don't know where the engineering comes in. I kind of had originally thought that was one of the ways in which, they don't have to, they're not a city, they don't have to do quite as extensive, but it is our property, so if we want to go ahead and do the more extensive, I mean, because as the letter comically indicates, when the marina side of this did this work, it was obviously Mr. Schuler that the letter was, the cut and paste wasn't changed, because Mr. Schuler's name is still on here. So
I was gonna
obviously,
bring that up too.
when this was done by the marina side, the marina was the one, Mike Schuler was the one in communication with Klein, and I had envisioned this going the same way with Islander, and I don't know why it wouldn't. So that's, what is it, $69,000 that the city doesn't need to spend if they don't have to spend it?
And is this equal to the 50 that was in the estimate?
No, it's not. I mean, it's 20,000
No.
more than the estimate.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is it, we had 50 in our estimate, and this is coming in at 70? Is that right?
Yeah,
So, okay, so we're already 20.
we're already 20 over, yeah. So, I mean,
40%.
I can see the cities, when they're talking about the infrastructure that's underneath the ground there, that's our land, so I can see us wanting to have considerable involvement in this, but I think if we were comfortable with letting Schuler take over it and take the cost, especially if they're gonna use Klein, obviously, we have a relationship with him, and but, so, in the interest of time,
Do you want to wait on this till Ways and Means as well?
I think so. I mean,
I think,
does
yeah,
that
so
make sense?
Until the other decision's made, this is kind of.
I feel like these
This
are-
is a different direction.
I feel like these two are tied to each other pretty
Yeah.
closely.
Okay.
Is that,
Great.
so
So
put
both
that,
of
so yeah,
these
just have
will-
both of those
We'll
discussions.
get Ways and Means, and then depending on the outcome of Ways and Means, it'll come back to this group.
Yeah,
in
and we
your-
can talk about those together. And I mean, if the will of council is to split them up and have the city responsible for one and the restaurant the other, I guess that's, that could be done. But
Well, I think from Ways and Means too, it's more of the, what's the budget, what's the business model? I don't know if they're gonna go through the lease.
the actual, the actual money being spent.
Yeah.
All right, so that takes us to
This is.
the ATM, changes the 10,000 additional services for the marina dredging.
Yeah, so there are really two things in here that have kind of come up. First is, ATM is under contract, a larger contract to take the dredging project all the way from conception to completion. So they have, and we engaged them after the last direction from council. We're ready to proceed ahead alone, check the contract. They are under contract to handle final plans, bidding documents, and construction administration. But they have indicated that there was a gap that was unexpected in their pricing to cover the work they've done, but this kind of scenario A, scenario B, the coordination between the scope called for an initial coordination with the Morgan Creek Homeowners Association. They have had to get more into that than their scope anticipated in trying to figure out the status of the Canal Association's dredge site, the work that they need done, whether or not they were going to participate, and then this option of going coordinating with the Army Corps separately of that group. So the first thing in the packet is a $10,000 change order to our existing agreement to cover that additional work that they've done.
So this is the cover work already done.
They're
Coming back and saying, hey, we ran through the budget and we need 10,000
Yes,
more.
yes. And I think there's still a certain amount of that work to be done to coordinate with the Army Corps on using their site. But yes, I think the lion's share of this work has already been done. The other consideration that they've asked of us is, I think they've said that the bathymetric data that we're dealing with is 4 or 5 years old.
2022.
Yeah. They're indicating that things could have changed between now and then, and this would be prudent to do another survey to just take inventory of the conditions to see if we wanted to, before we go to work, if we wanted to change the dredging scope of work to account for the change in conditions between 22 and today. So that's an additional $5,000. that would be to the surveyor to do that work.
And that's in here?
That is not in the 10, that would be, and we don't have I think that's in an email.
I think they said an estimate in the email is $5,000
Yep.
Yeah, and then they've identified the two surveying
in
firms.
addition to the up to 10.
Yeah, so both,
That's
it's a
total
10
15.
and a 5.
And the $10,000 change order is no more than 10, so it could come in less, but probably not. Right?
Yes,
On the change order agreement?
that's correct.
Is Geosyntec the?
Yes, that's the parent company of AT&T.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha. So do we need a decision on that, or what do
Yes,
we need to do?
yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's both projects? That's a
The 10
change
and the
order
5.
Right.
And the additional survey, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Seems reasonable. All right, next is new business. The planned Charleston County TST project. It's projects, there's two. The first one in our packet is around the Windjammer and the dinghy, I believe.
That's correct.
And I haven't gotten a lot of comments on that. I don't know if the restaurants and the businesses around there have been participating, have any comments, questions? Have we asked them? Are they
Yeah, we
on
have been
board?
coordinating closely with the dinghy on this project. They are the ones most impacted by the project. And I will say, they have not been thrilled about the project because of the alignment in front of their building. Their primary objection, I think, has been the reduction in parking spaces adjacent to the building. The subcontractor, the designer, has worked pretty diligently to offset any losses by adding perpendicular spaces within that right-of-way. So I would say that I think they're more agreeable than they have been because of the offsetting parking spaces. But I do think if Brett with the dinghy was here, he would still say he was less than thrilled with the project.
And there's removal of trees included in this too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Palm trees and I guess an oak tree?
So
Yes.
how has this all been happening? I feel like a while ago, we had some very high-level theoretical conversations about this stuff, and, but I don't recall ever having real discussions, and, I mean, if the business that's the most directly impacted by it doesn't want it, who does want it?
Well, this is just my personal perspective, that section of the roadway, and if we've kind of gone back and looked at the aerial photographs from the county GIS, and you can see in that one aerial, there are probably 6 or 7 people walking in the roadway there. So that was the original intent, was we have a sidewalk to nowhere that goes in front of the public safety building. It then stops, and then the public has to go out into the roadway, walk down to Ocean Boulevard and connect to another sidewalk there. So this was a connection in the network that was deemed valuable.
When,
Safety issue too?
Yeah. to
we,
get-
the TSD projects, we dealt with those in council.
Yes.
At some point. Last year?
Well,
when we
these are-
decided, or when there were recommendations out there, and this was one of them.
Yes.
I remember, continuing sidewalks, and I think we'll talk about another one down on Palm in a little bit. But, I mean,
Yeah, so what
we
hap-
approved
you do
this
approve, I
along
mean,
with the county.
Yes. So what happens is the city council will kind of embrace requests of the county, then goes through the county's TST process, and they will rank them, I think generally, by, what they're achieving in terms of public safety. I do know this one scored very high with them because of the pedestrian traffic that's in the roadway in a busy area. If it gets approved by the county, it then kind of starts in as a county project. It's a county TST project. Both of these have fairly recently, I think they got approved by the county, I think we requested them 3 or 4 years ago. They get approved, they then kind of bubble up in their queue as a next project, and these have both bubbled up probably in the last 6 months. So they engage a engineer, the engineer starts developing plans.
So when we request them or approve them, it's conceptual, it's not actual, real life.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
This is more like a spec, almost.
Yeah, to
Yes.
Katie's point, this is the first time we've actually seen a chart.
Right.
An
that
actual
says,
construction
okay,
plan,
we'll
that's
remove
correct.
this tree.
Yes,
we're gonna do
exactly.
this.
And that's where I feel like, I mean, what if, the resounding, it sounds like at least, it's not necessarily here, but I mean, I do feel like, I do feel like the dinghy, if they're losing parking, that's an issue. So parking is always a huge issue. Are they losing their parking spots, or are they just losing city parking spots that are adjacent to their restaurant?
The second, yeah, all of
They're not
the
losing any
work.
property. like
Their
it's-
paid parking
Those are-
that they
that's an
have
easement.
within their lot is not being affected.
Well, truth be known, they have set their fencing out into the right of way, and they are,
So they're in the right of way now.
yes, yes. So some of the parking that is in their parking lot and behind their pay gate is technically in the public right of way.
And the county could make the decision to remove it anyway.
Well,
it's in
it's
the
not a
right-of-way.
county right, that's either a city right of way or
Or
a
DOT.
state, a DOT, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Ocean is, Ocean, I don't know where they divide. It's
It's right
city-
around there somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right kind of in there that the,
Well, I will admit that a lot of people walk in the roadway there when you get down the end of the sidewalk to nowhere.
And that does connect to another site. I mean,
Yeah, it
basically,
does,
that does
yeah.
connect to
Right.
that.
There's a lot of foot traffic there that's in the roadway itself.
I mean, I guess I just, I feel like if we're gonna be doing projects like this on the city's, city's businesses are affected,
And it,
it feels like it's somewhat out of our hands, but I guess my question is it? I mean, if we decided we didn't wanna do this, would they,
I think so.
Pull
I mean,
up.
I think if this is being done at the city's request, so I'm assuming that if we got into it and said, hey, we've thought better of our request, we want to pull it, I believe they would honor that.
yes, I understand the TST project, basically. I mean, it's countywide, obviously. And they get input from municipalities conceptually, like we talked about earlier. Then they go back and prioritize.
That's correct.
And then come back and say, okay, we think this is a worthy project for improved walkability,
Yep.
which is what we're kind of hoping to do anyway on this island at some point. Yeah, but it's kind of a surprise when you just
Yeah,
see it for the first time, and it's,
yeah, we definitely kind of launch it out of the city's world when we make the request. And they kind of put it into their system, and it becomes their project based on our request. So maybe we should, going forward, vet our requests a little bit better. I mean, it's seeming like, and it is a thing where 4 years pass between making the request and them coming to fruition.
yeah.
And I have not, gone back and looked at extensively how much this project was vetted when it was originally requested. But maybe that would be the takeaway that we,
Well, it isn't the bottom line on this particular one. This basically is going to take people out from walking down the middle of the street.
yes,
Yeah.
that,
Right.
Yeah, I
There-
mean,
there's
that seems to be a good
And
thing.
in the process, how many spaces are going to be lost by?
I think we're actually adding
It
spaces. If
sounds
you
like
adding-
it's gonna
okay.
be
And that-
So
close
the new
to a
concept,
wash.
20 spaces is an addition. We have 10 spaces now up
I
at
know,
the
I was-
upper left.
I was trying to
parking
do the
spaces.
math, but, because
Yeah.
it says they're gonna
Yes,
be.
so I think it's
Up in the
it's a
upper left.
net of an additional 10, which I think are those spaces that are currently, there are some parallel ADA spaces.
Two ADA accessible spaces, which is great. And 8 additional
So
parking.
is that all gonna be paved?
so
Because
this-
isn't it gravel now?
Yes, this is,
Yeah.
this is
Hard pack.
currently, I
Yeah.
think, 2 ADA spaces that are parallel. They're eliminating those and creating all perpendicular front-loaded spaces in here to pick up those additional spots, which I think that was the primary objection of the dinghy, was it was a net loss of space, so I think.
But now it's not.
It's now.
Okay, so we think we're good now on this one. I mean,
I don't think he was crazy about the sidewalk, because now the sidewalk will go right up to their front door, very much like a King Street business where if you swing the door open, I think there's swings in.
You're right.
but, He wasn't thrilled about that, but I think he's
okay.
okay.
When would this work be done?
I think relatively soon, probably in the next year.
Okay.
I mean, they're
4th of
still
July.
designing. Yeah, and they would do it in the.
That's what
You read my mind on that.
Yeah, they would
I mean,
not
it
do
would
it in
be
the
good
summer.
if we can stay away from a
Yeah.
high season, as we try to do.
Yeah, we can, I think they have always respected our request to do it, not in a busy time.
Yeah, could we also, since this is, I mean, probably none of us were on the public service and facilities when this was first talked about a number of years ago, but could we get an updated list of what we have vetted in the
Yes.
past
Okay?
Yeah,
with the county?
yeah,
So
so
that
we
we
know
know
what's,
at least,
so we know what's coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we can at least ahead of time just look at the projects that are there and say, okay, conceptually, we approved these 3 years ago.
Yeah, that would be,
Kind of
that would be
what do
very
they look
helpful.
like now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the next one, which is the one that we've gotten a lot of objection to. And that is the sidewalk down from Carolina to Second. And I guess people are calling this the sidewalk to nowhere. And I think, back to this, list of proposed projects, there is a proposal to have this sidewalk go farther.
That's correct.
Beyond Second Avenue?
Yes.
I think that's just one of the many
Yeah.
objections that people have. I mean, the biggest one is just the fact that this is,
Will the walkability study that we get at some point from COG or whatever it is, will that have all of this sort of mapped out with recommendations?
Yes, it does.
So we'll see what the greater recommendation is in terms of continuity of sidewalks.
That's correct.
this one I would personally like to shelve and see what we get, from this walkability study, and if there's potentially a better way of doing it.
Or spend the money somewhere else higher priority,
Yeah,
if they're willing to, yeah.
it just, to me, this one,
I mean, if it's gonna be 5 years before it connects further than Second, maybe it should be delayed.
yeah.
If
So
there's
the-
something else we can do in the meanwhile.
And then I also just think we need to, it would be an easier sell to the people that live down there that are looking at having all of their, trees and shrubs and gates and, all of that disturbed, if we could give them okay, well, this is why this is happening, this is the plan, this is what the future, when it's all done, it's gonna look like, show a pretty picture of what it's gonna look like as opposed to,
There's a lot of planning and a lot of growth in that right of way.
Yeah.
It's been there for years.
so I don't know how we do that, like working with the county or what, I don't know what
I
the,
mean, I guess the question is too, is the sidewalk, is it anticipated that they're trying to put sidewalk all the way down Palm
So
eventually, but it's
Yes,
within-
so-
but if it's
so I
not
think-
gonna be within our lifetime.
I think the challenge is we get funding through that program to do roughly kind of 2 blocks of sidewalk per funding cycle. This request is to go from Breach Inlet to 10th on that side with a continuous sidewalk. But the only way to get there with their funding is to do it incrementally. So this is the first phase. The current pending request for them is to take it from Second to,
To 10th, huh?
well, to
Fourth.
Fourth or Fifth. It's either Fourth or Fifth, but it's to get it.
But ultimately to 10th where you pick up where the post office is.
That's correct.
And then you have
So-
your sidewalk already in place.
Yeah, I don't think, and we could certainly ask this question, but I don't think they are set up for us to say, let's pause on this one until we get the next 2 allocated and then do it all at once. I don't think they could do it that way, but I could
Use it or
certainly,
lose it, kind of.
I think that's kind of the, that's kind of the scenario where you have to do it in this incremental fashion to get something longer than about two blocks done. So that works well in situations like the dinghy where you have a little missing piece. It also worked well from the rec center to Palm. It was 2 blocks. But if you want to do a kind of larger connective sidewalk, I think this is how you have to do it if you're going to use those funds.
So maybe ask the question a little differently. Is the funding cycle annual?
Yes.
So do we know if we've got 2nd to 4th in queue and then 4th to 6th in queue and all these? Because I think what we were saying is, and I don't know if it's been socialized with the community, is that we're gonna put a sidewalk down that side of Palm Boulevard.
Right.
All the way. And this is just step 1,
That's correct.
which then impacts everybody's, whatever they got in the easements, which would be like if they redo Palm Boulevard, there's gonna be another massive impact to the folks
Right.
Oceanside.
Yeah, I mean, once you get
Yeah.
from 4th to 10th, you're gonna have the same issues come
Right.
up.
So maybe the communication, maybe this has been a communication thing where we need to really be proactive on telling people that the grand plan is a sidewalk all the way down Palm Boulevard.
Yeah.
and should we get this as a discussion point in front of full council? Just to get,
Yeah.
I mean, I think based on the number of emails and comments that we've been getting from the public, I feel like this is something
Gotta
that
address it.
And,
We
and those,
should-
and those additional projects that we might have approved conceptually a few years ago.
Yeah,
as
if we
part of
had-
That discussion,
if we had all that and we could provide people with
yeah.
a, 10-year plan, I think that, and then, discuss that all as a whole, I feel like we'd have a better,
More
reception.
Better buy-in,
Yeah.
more reception.
Does
If
it,
we said if between now and 2030, the plan is to every year increment 2 blocks of that might be a receptive message, or it might be something
Yeah,
somebody can
depending
plan
on
for.
what the county approves,
Yeah.
Right.
obviously, but
so do you all think, and I'm just kind of reacting here while we're talking about it, we do have the pending request for them to extend this from Second to, and I think it's Fourth. If there was I guess I could see where naturally this project would be delayed to a point where it maybe could line up with that second phase. Does that make a difference in y'all's mind if it went from Second to Fourth instead of Breach to Fourth instead of Breach to Second? Does it help that
it might.
scenario?
it could, yeah.
I mean,
it's like-
it decreases the argument that it's a sidewalk to nowhere. I mean, that's,
Yeah. So we can ask that question of.
it doesn't ease the concerns about people's, yards and
Or
whatnot.
yards, yeah.
And it actually increases the people that are gonna be impacted.
But it'd be
So,
better to deal with it. I mean, really, I think the intention is to have it from Breach to the post office. You're gonna be able to not have to walk on the road or ride in the road.
That's right.
right, which again, would, from a safety issue, would certainly be desirable, but from the standpoint of the people whose houses are there,
I'm glad my daughter's wall is out of the right of way at the corner of Second.
And yeah, and that's the problem, is that, we've, over time, we've let people, use this area as their,
They get-
Well, realistically, there's
But it
never
is
been a
an easy-
use for it otherwise,
Right,
other
yeah.
than to beautify it with your own
plants.
plants,
and
shrubbery,
whatnot, yeah.
trees.
But this is it's a DOT road? But it's a
Yes.
county project?
Correct.
For the sidewalk part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because usually the sidewalk belongs to whoever owns the road.
So the sidewalk would become, it becomes the property of the DOT. It's on their land. That's part of the encroachment permit process is we're gonna forever kind of own it. We generally, we being the city, because it's a county project, but it's being done at the request of the city. We generally have to accept future maintenance of whatever it is that we ask them
Right.
to allow. in
Like
the right-
21st.
Yeah,
21st
is-
got replaced by the county, but we maintain it now, right?
yes.
Yeah.
In a DOT right of way.
In a DOT
Yeah.
right away.
And it's our drainage is the same way. They will allow us to do projects in their right of way, but they say, hey, that's forever, your drainage pipe, we're gonna require that you will maintain it going forward. So you want this project to be, is it both projects? You want both projects to be considered by council, or is it just the Palm Boulevard one?
I guess we might as well have them both.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would think both.
Okay.
if we're going to talk about one, it'd be kind of weird not to talk about the other one.
And we will ask the question, could we, knowing that the next phase is in the queue, would it be feasible to delay this to line up with that one, assuming it gets authorization?
And what other items are in the queue
And then what other?
conceptually?
All right.
I think the plan for the foreseeable future was to just continue to focus on extending this one,
Okay,
because so I think it's just this
Kinda
one
makes
in the
sense.
queue,
yeah.
but I'll verify that.
Okay. All right, next is surfing lesson application. I guess is this one that came in late?
And I
No,
don't know
I
if
don't
this
think
was,
so.
yeah, I don't know if this was it didn't get, it is named very similarly to another, so I don't know
Oh.
if this was an agenda problem that it fell off, or it came in, I'm not positive, but it definitely it did not get considered when the
Okay.
others got considered, so
It's
it's an
de-
add-on.
it's definitely a different person, what Kyle Busey, I
Yeah.
think it is.
So do we need to,
Make a motion.
make a motion if we want to send this to full council, I
Yes.
guess?
Yeah. Where would they,
Um,
where would they be stationed? I mean, I know we have 4 approved now,
Yes,
and they're all spaced within a few blocks of each
Yeah, does
other.
it say where this one is?
should be in his application.
We've always tried to,
Yeah,
little
to keep them
distance.
somewhat,
Sixth Avenue,
so he is going to be on the
Sixth
south, so
Avenue.
nobody was down there.
that's correct.
Does he know that we're doing feature nourishment? I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
I
Do
don't
y'all?
either.
No,
Yeah.
Our motion to approve, or put that
Second.
in front of council?
Did you make the motion? Or did-
Yeah, I'll make I'll make a
Okay,
motion to
second.
approve that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then the last thing. Oh, IT services and expenses. Is that your baby, Scott?
yeah.
This is Scott's mom. And we fully
Got
support
numbers
it.
on
I
it.
got to tell you that I'll make this brief because I know we don't, 2 things. I got a question. Does this include storage, like any storage? I don't know. Who put this together? Was that Josh or?
This
Yeah.
list, this is just from the budget.
The budget
So this
stuff.
is Deborah and Nikki.
This is budget, not
This-
actuals, or?
This is actuals.
Looks like actuals.
Yeah, this is actuals, but the way that we pulled this together was just everything that's billed against the IT line items in our
And the
budget.
and the telecom.
Yes.
Okay. This, by the way, this is fantastic. This is be a real good baseline to start with. It's the numbers are kind of where I expected, and
Yep.
it looks like the categories we got. Seems to me like we've got opportunity. I just got 2 requests, and then we don't need to spend any time on it necessarily today. Where it says to record GASB 96 subscription, that credit, can we either pull that out or put it below the line, because we're actually spending a little over 700, that's a non-cash item, I don't think that's a journal entry. I think that gets put in there as a credit. I
Yeah.
don't think we actually get money on that one. It's a journal entry
Okay.
kind of thing. So I think from a cash perspective, it looks like we've at least accounted for about $700,000 of IT and telecom spend. Can we also just make sure that all of the storage and licenses are in here? And then, if we're, one last thing, this is kind of maybe a notes section on the right. If there's a licensing, like we got Adobe, and I'm
Yep.
kind of surprised that Microsoft's so low, but what this tells me is we're getting a lot of stuff through third parties.
That's correct. Yeah, VC3, that bill now includes all the Microsoft.
Yeah, and I think even,
Licenses.
it looks like all of our telecom's going through a third party, or a lot of it's going through third parties. Like our Segra, we got $50,000 going through a third party for our telecom. And these are alphabetical, just keep going down. If you go all the way, it's like 49,000 going to a third party for telecom.
And
Unless
VC3 is
Am I
what?
writing it, or am I looking at the right line? It might
So
be-
VC3 is $257,000.
Oh,
so
that might be Schneider Electric.
But Segra is our phone provider.
Anyway, the good news is we've got some information, and if we can just maybe, if there's a number of licenses that we're subscribing to that's attached to any of these, that would be just a little helpful metric over on the right, if we can get that information. And then we can dive
So
in.
for
We
instance,
can-
Adobe,
Yeah, we
Scott,
got-
you'd like to see like 12 Acrobat licenses?
Yeah, or
Whatever
we-
that is?
Yeah, or we pay, yeah, and then we can find out, how much are we paying annually for a license? That just gives us something to jump off of.
And then I know VC, and then the other one is VC3. All of our Microsoft licenses are in there, and it's a map. But you want
Yeah, just
kind of out the
just a
side.
number. They did that in their quote, so that might be
Yeah.
something you just pull off, and close is fine for now.
Okay.
And then we can get into the bandwidth stuff later. But this is a lot of money,
It is.
and I think we got some opportunity here.
Verify, it was storage and licenses, correct? Those are
Yep.
the two things to verify.
That they're in
And then
here.
add a column for licenses. What, was there another?
No, I think that's good for now.
Okay.
Just, that'll get us started, and then we can spend some time on it. This is a huge schedule to have, to see where the money's flowing. This is helpful.
All right. Anything else on that? I believe that is all. Miscellaneous. Our next meeting is, when is our next one? May the 5th,
May 5th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Off the record at 10:08.
And I'll make a motion.
Thank you all.
All right.
And, the sheriff equipment's in here?